Hi, I'm Peter from Breakneck Ministry, and this is Darcy, Lucky My Hand. And we're going to look at Genesis chapter 19. Sodom was desperately and exceedingly wicked. Now comes the time where God has to judge. What right does he have to judge? Period. Well, if he is a just and holy God, and he created us, he has every right to judge us. Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and angels means messenger of God. Don't think they have wings or flying around. They look like men. Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. So Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom, and that would often be the person who greeted the people that came to the city, which also had responsibility, like the political party. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with the face toward the ground. And he's sitting at the gate, and there's the two angels coming, and he greets them. And what's the first thing he does? He sees them, and he bows his face down to the ground. He knew who they were. So Lot was considered a righteous man, according to the Bible in 2 Peter. And a righteous man was a person who followed after God. And he said, "Hear now, my lords, please," and this is Lot speaking, "turn into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet, that you may rise early and go on your way." And they said, "No, but we will spend the night in the open square." So Lot saw the angels come. He probably knew he was in trouble, because he also knew they were from God and that city was not doing according to God's will. And he figured, they are here for a reason. What does he do? He bows his face down to the ground, and he offers them place to stay. But because Lot isn't really behaving himself very well, I believe, or maybe there's other reasons, but they decide to stay in the open square. Now that wouldn't be super unusual. Verse 3, but he, being Lot, insisted strongly. So they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. A common thing to do when you have friends over or are being hospitable. So the angels ended up going there. In verse 4, now before they laid down, the men of the city, in other words, before all of them laid down to go to sleep, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them carnally." They're looking for those two strangers who came into the city of Sodom. The shocking part is the next line. We may know them carnally. Know them is a term of sexual relationships. And carnally is an added word, just so that we know what the intention of the original Hebrew meant. Know them carnally means they wanted to rape the angels from God. They thought they were strangers, but all the men from everywhere came. What is going on in that city? How bad can it get? When we talk about wicked, I think everybody agree that rape, and this type of rape, is exceedingly wicked. They don't know who they're dealing with. So Lot went out to them, the people, through the doorway, shut the door behind him, and said, "Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly." Even Lot recognized, this is terrible. What are you doing? Verse 8, "See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof." The intentions of these men was wicked, but for Lot to offer up his 2 virgin daughters to the rapists that are waiting outside, who would kill his daughters after they raped them, I'm sure. Lot is supposed to be a righteous man. How could he have such a thought? The Bible includes all the things that people do. It wants to help us to realize the condition of our heart. There's a verse that says Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is desperately wicked. Oh, the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Above all things, who can know it? And they said, this is the people, stand back. This is the Lot. Then they said, this one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will do worse with you than with them. And the reason why they say this one came here to stay, because Lot was fairly new in town. Remember, Abraham and Lot went to the gates of Sodom initially because he thought the land was beautiful and the place was great. He didn't really think about if they were wicked or not. And now he's in the gate, now he's in the place, and now he's acting like their judge by saying, you can't do this wicked thing. Apparently, their Sodom was doing this all along. They were not a good people. So they pressed hard, in verse 9, against the man Lot and came near to break down the door. The men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. So the angels, the two angels, they grabbed Lot and pulled him in and then shut the door to save him from the people in the town. And they struck the men, verse 11, who were at the doorway of the house with blindness. Well, because they had the power of God given to them to strike them with blindness when necessary, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. He offers up his daughters, and clearly that wasn't the right thing to do. Had he trusted who these people were, these two men, well, they had easy. All they had to do was say it, and they struck him with blindness. To offer up his daughters was a very foolish thing. But the men still grabbed Lot and brought him into the house and saved them from the people, who would probably have done worse, they said, to Lot than they would have done to the angels who were there. Verse 12. Then the men said to Lot, have anyone else here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, whoever you have in the city, take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Now it's Lot's job to find those who are in his house, whoever you have in the city, whoever belongs to you, Lot, get them out now. A warning by the men who he's seen what they did caused blindness to the ones who came to his door, that they have power from the Lord. They will destroy, or they said they will. Verse 14, so Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters. Now, they were likely men from Sodom. Probably not a lot of character. And he said, get up, get out of this place, and the Lord will destroy the city. You know, if they respected Lot, and Lot was living for the Lord, and he had told them about who God is, they'd probably say, wow, yeah, Sodom, it's so bad here. They deserve destruction. What do you think the response of the son-in-law were? But to his sons, verse 14, at the end, he seemed to be joking. They laughed at Lot. Oh, Lot, you're joking. He's not going to destroy Sodom. They didn't even take him seriously. So, verse 15, when the morning dawned and the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. So they gave up on the sons-in-law because they weren't coming. They thought it was a big joke. Verse 16, while he lingered, get out. But he lingered, just kind of hung around. Well, you know, how should I tell them? My son-in-law didn't believe me. The men of God, The angels of the Lord are telling him to hurry. And the man took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, and the Lord being merciful to him, and brought him out and set him outside of the city. Those men, those angels, messengers of God, grabbed their hands and pretty well dragged them out. Now, they probably did go very quickly when they grabbed him. And it says the Lord being merciful to him. He was merciful to Lot because Lot deserved it too. But because he was a man of faith, one that the Bible actually says that he was righteous, and throughout his time there, the word is vexed. It was like everything around him. It was driving him crazy, in other words. He hated the way the people were, but he did nothing about it to get out. Could have left. And then when he's warned of it, he's negotiating with those wicked people, offering up his 2 daughters. But the angel of the Lord came and took them out, saved him, were merciful to him, his 2 daughters, because they could have just left and said, well, if you don't want to come, you'll just get the judgment along with the others. And that's what it is like today. If you don't want to be saved, well, they're not going to force you. God's not going to force you to get in heaven. If you don't want to be in heaven with the Lord, He's not going to force you to escape the judgment to come. But He will do one thing. He'll warn you in the Scriptures. And that's why we're presenting the Scriptures today. Verse 17, so it came to pass, when they had brought them outside, that he said, escape for your life. Notice how the explanation point is. That's the emphasis in the original language. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere on the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Because the angels were going to stay there to judge. Will he do as God said? You'd think he'd go away very quickly after he saw the power of the angels. And clearly they were from God. Verse 18 says, then Lot said to them, being the angels, please no, my lords. How can you say that to them? How can you tell them, as representatives of God who came to destroy the city, please no, my lord? But he did. Very bold. Did it very different than Abraham did. Verse 19, indeed now your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy, which you have shown me by saving my life. Well, that's true. They're very merciful. They saved his life when he probably didn't deserve it. So now he's saying, I found favor. Please listen to me. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. See now, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. What is Lot doing? He's trying to go to a little city outside of Sodom, in the plain, exactly where they said not to go. And he's begging them if he could stay there. What really Lot is doing is saying, I want to stay close to Sodom, just in case you don't destroy the whole city. And I want to go back there in order to go back to the place I was before. He uses the excuse, lest some evil overtake me and I die. That is not true at all. What is he fearful of? The 2 men were saving him and putting him in place so he could die. Why would they bother saving him? Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. So the angels are telling Lot, hurry, escape there. Don't negotiate. And the name of the city is called Zor because it means insignificant. It was a small little city. Obviously Lot's not crazy about a small little city. He just wanted to be near. Verse 23, the sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zor. He's going through Zor, right? Verse 24. Then the Lord rained fire or brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. And he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. Everything was destroyed in that city. Fire and brimstone. Brimstone is a rock, can take a lot of heat, and it comes down and it will cause fire everywhere. In Sodom and Gomorrah, it rained on those cities and destroyed them. And that's the Lord who is judging it. So we often hear the term fire and brimstone messages and that. This is one of them. I'm giving a fire and brimstone message. So the fire and brimstone message is a message to warn you, just like Lot was warned, like Abraham was warned that it's going to happen, to tell others to make sure they don't receive the judgment. That's why the scripture is written. Verse 26, famous verse. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. God can do anything. He can turn you into a pillar of salt. He created salt. He created the earth. Oh no, and my cat's coming. Just be great. Oh. Come here. I see. Hey, here. Come here. Come here. Oh no, Darcy, come on. Come on. Darcy, no. Just go down. They were all told, don't look back. Why did she look back? Was she interested in the destruction? She was holding on to what she had. She looked back. She'd rather worry about the things she's leaving behind than going forward to escape the judgment to come. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain. And he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land which went up like a smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham. That's a good verse. God remembered Abraham because Abraham was a man of faith and believes God. And sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. Lot was saved. Righteous Lot, who was vexed, who was persecuted, but wasn't very righteous, but he was considered righteous because it didn't depend on him. It depended on the Lord. And sent out Lot in the midst of the overthrow, when he, being God, overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. What a shame. There's two men here, Abraham and Lot, very different stories. The city's destroyed and God remembered Abraham. But it doesn't say he remembered Lot. It just said he sent him out of the midst of the overthrow because Abraham pleaded on Lot's behalf to God. Remember how he said in the chapter earlier, if there is 10 righteous, but there wasn't even 10. This is a very important message. If you have any comments, please put comments down on what you think. Subscribe. It's called Breakneck Ministries. And you know what? I really think it's a very important thing to understand this portion. It's not about particular sins, although they become clear. It's about our condition before a holy God. Are we saved? Will we be saved from the destruction ahead? You need to know for sure. If you don't know if you are, send us a message in the comments section. And we will tell you again and talk to you about how to be sure you are escaping the judgment to come. Thank you for watching.